Babe, what'd they tell you? Nothing. Okay, she was life flighted here. Okay. No. You want to sit down? Oh my God. What do you say this? Progress in Alameda, car into a building. 2 are deceased in the vehicle. Daughter's driving. Who died?
From the outside, the Harrington family appeared perfectly ordinary, the kind of suburban household people pointed to as the picture of stability. Michael Harrington worked as an electrical engineer, a quiet and practical man who believed deeply in logic, structure, and the belief that problems, no matter how large, always had a solution. His wife, Laura, was softer, an elementary school teacher, who warmed every space she touched with her kindness. And then there was their daughter, Alyssa Harrington, a 17-year-old girl with a reputation for brilliance and an unsettling quietness that most people shrugged off as shyness. But behind Alyssa's calm, behind those emotionless grey eyes that stared a little too long at things, lay something else. Something so dark and twisted that even her parents, who loved her with everything in them, could never have imagined. The night everything changed began like any other humid Ohio night. The air was thick, the windows slightly cracked, and the Harringtons were deep asleep when the doorbell tore through the silence at exactly 3:17 a.m. The ringing wasn't timid, it was violent, urgent, like someone smashing their palm repeatedly into the button. Michael jolted awake instantly, while Laura gasped upright, already clutching her chest. A parent's instinct is sharp, almost psychic, and Laura's heart sank even before she reached the hallway. When Michael opened the front door, the first thing he saw was the face of Detective Samuel Reeves, tired, rain-soaked, and carrying a weight in his eyes that instantly made Michael's stomach twist. Reeves apologized for the late hour, but Michael barely heard him. The moment he heard the words, "It's about your daughter, Alyssa," Laura nearly collapsed. The parents expected the worst, an accident, an assault, a kidnapping, but the truth that waited behind the detective was far more chilling than anything they could have imagined. The detective insisted they come with him, saying only that it was urgent, that things needed to be explained at the station. Laura begged for answers, but Reeves stayed firm and silent, as if afraid his own voice could unleash something catastrophic. They followed him to the car, and as the rain began to fall harder, something inside Laura trembled, not from fear for Alyssa's safety, but from something she couldn't name. Like the ground beneath her was cracking. At the police station, the fluorescent lights felt cold and harsh. Officers whispered. Some looked at Michael and Laura with pity, others with discomfort. No one would meet their eyes directly. They were escorted into a dim conference room where a laptop sat on the table. Detective Reeves finally exhaled and asked them a question that immediately made Laura's blood freeze. "Mr. and Mrs. Harrington, how much do you know about your daughter's friends?" The question felt out of place, almost surreal. They answered truthfully. Alyssa had always been quiet, but she had one close friend, Emily Cross, a sweet girl from her school who disappeared 3 nights earlier. It was all over town. Laura said she'd asked Alyssa repeatedly if she knew anything, but Alyssa claimed she didn't. In fact, Alyssa barely reacted at all, simply blinking calmly as if bored by the subject. Detective Reeves then opened the laptop. What the parents saw next would haunt them forever. It was grainy security footage from an abandoned industrial area outside town. A shaky timestamp fluttered in the corner. The camera overlooked an empty concrete corridor, the kind of place teenagers might sneak into for dares or drugs. In the footage, 2 figures appeared. One was Emily, her long blonde hair unmistakable. The other was Alyssa, walking beside her, calm, almost serene. At first everything looked normal. They were talking, walking slowly. But then Alyssa stopped moving. Emily turned, confused, and said something the camera couldn't record. Alyssa stood completely still, head tilted, watching her friend without expression. Then, in a motion so fast it was barely captured, Alyssa lunged forward, grabbed Emily by the hair, and slammed her head into the concrete wall. Once, twice, a third time. Emily's body collapsed, twitching. Alyssa knelt beside her, her face still blank, and calmly dragged her deeper into the darkness of the corridor. Laura screamed so violently the detective had to hold her. Michael felt his throat close, unable to breathe or comprehend what he had seen. Their daughter, sweet, quiet, gentle Alyssa, executed her best friend with the cold precision of someone who felt absolutely nothing. But the horror didn't end there. More footage followed. Footage from 3 different locations. Footage of 3 different teenagers, whose disappearances the town believed were unrelated. Every video showed the same figure, Alyssa. Always calm, always collected, always smiling faintly just before the attack. She moved without hesitation, without guilt, without fear. The detectives had spent weeks trying to understand who the killer was, never imagining it could be a teenage girl with honor roll certificates pinned neatly in her bedroom. Michael felt his legs go numb. He sat on the cold metal chair and stared at the table, unable to speak. Laura cried uncontrollably, begging the detective to tell her this was fake, doctored, manipulated. But the evidence was overwhelming: DNA, fingerprints, security footage, the victim's blood found on Alyssa's shoes hidden beneath her bed. Then Reeves delivered the final blow. Alyssa was in custody. She had been arrested only an hour earlier. She hadn't resisted. She hadn't cried. She simply asked if her parents would be informed. And then, she smiled. The detective hesitated before revealing the next part, warning them gently that Alyssa seemed emotionally off. She had shown no remorse, no fear, not even curiosity. In fact, she appeared excited to talk to them. The walk down the hallway to the holding area felt endless. The air grew colder with each step, the buzzing of fluorescent lights becoming painfully loud. Michael and Laura reached the observation window where a single cell sat behind thick glass. Inside, Alyssa was sitting cross-legged on the bench, her head slightly lowered, dark hair hiding most of her face. But the moment the parents stepped forward, she lifted her head with a slow, deliberate motion. Her lips curved into the smallest, eeriest smile. "Mom. Dad," she said softly, almost cheerfully. "You made it." Laura broke instantly, collapsing into Michael's arms, begging her daughter to tell her none of it was real. But Alyssa only tilted her head, as though puzzled by their reaction. Then she said something that made every officer nearby shift uncomfortably. "I thought you would be proud of me." That sentence cracked the world in two. Michael slammed his fist against the glass, demanding answers, but Alyssa continued speaking in that calm, innocent voice. She described how she felt nothing for people. Not sadness. Not empathy. Not even hatred. She said she watched her classmates live with their emotions, their friendships, their connections, things she could never feel, and she wanted to understand what made them so alive. So she experimented. She followed people. Studied them. Talked to them. And when she finally felt confident, she removed them from the world to see if it made her feel something. But it never did. When the police found her, she wasn't running or hiding. She was sitting in the abandoned lot where she had left one of the bodies, drawing patterns in the dirt with a stick. When asked why she didn't escape, she answered, "Because I'm not finished learning yet." Michael asked her why Emily, her best friend, was among the victims. Alyssa blinked, confused. "She wasn't my friend," she said. "She thought she was. But I just needed time to decide how she should die." Laura screamed again, unable to listen anymore. Officers rushed her out of the room. Alyssa leaned forward, pressing her forehead gently against the glass as Michael stood on the other side, trembling. In that moment, staring into her emotionless gray eyes, he realized something devastating. His daughter wasn't insane. She was empty. A human shell wearing the mask of a daughter, a student, a teenager. Something had lived inside her all these years that they had never truly seen. In the weeks that followed, Alyssa became a media spectacle. Teenage serial killer, headlines said. Psychologists called her a highly intelligent, emotionally void predator. She confessed to 5 murders with disturbing clarity, explaining every detail like she was narrating a school project. The Harringtons' lives fell apart. Their home was vandalized. Laura quit her job after parents protested her being near children. Michael refused all interviews, spending his days sitting silently in Alyssa's empty bedroom, staring at the stuffed animals she had arranged neatly on her shelves. Her walls were covered with awards, photographs, reminders of the life they believed she had. But now everything felt staged, like props in a play. One night, unable to sleep, Michael dug through Alyssa's desk and found a notebook taped beneath the drawer. Inside were pages and pages of sketches, drawings of human anatomy, facial expressions, diagrams of emotional reactions. But the last few pages were different. They were sketches of her victims. Names written below each drawing. Dates. Notes. And at the very end of the notebook, there was a final drawing. A sketch of her mother and father standing together, smiling. Below it, written in tiny, perfect handwriting. Still studying them. Michael closed the notebook with shaking hands, realizing with horror that Alyssa hadn't chosen her victims randomly. She had been observing everyone in her life, analyzing them, wondering how differently people would react emotionally if something horrific happened to the Harringtons. Emily died because Alyssa wanted to feel alive. But nothing stopped Alyssa from wondering, what would she feel if her own parents died? The realization almost made Michael vomit. He immediately burned the notebook in the backyard, refusing to let Laura ever see it. Meanwhile, Alyssa remained in a maximum security facility, awaiting trial. During one of the court hearings, she asked to speak with her parents. It was the first request she made since her arrest. Against their better judgment, Laura insisted on seeing her daughter one last time. The meeting was arranged in a heavily guarded visitation room. Alyssa sat behind reinforced glass, hands cuffed even though she hadn't shown a hint of violence since her arrest. When Laura sat down, Alyssa smiled faintly. "You've lost weight," Alyssa said softly. "You should eat more. You look fragile." Laura's hands shook violently as she held the phone to her ear. "Why, Alyssa? Why did you do all this?" Alyssa blinked as though she didn't understand the question. "Because I wanted to know what love feels like," she said. "Everyone kept telling me they loved me." "Emily said it. You said it. But I felt nothing. So I thought if I took something away, maybe I'd feel the opposite. Hate, fear, something strong. But it never worked." Then she looked directly at her mother, her eyes sharp and glistening with something Laura had never seen in her, curiosity. Then she looked directly at her mother, her eyes sharp and glistening with something Laura had never seen in her, curiosity. "But when I watched you cry the night they arrested me, I felt something. Very faint, but real." Laura froze, horrified. Alyssa leaned closer to the glass. "I think I finally know how to feel love," she whispered. "But I need to see what happens next." Laura dropped the phone in terror, stumbling out of the room as officers rushed to restrain Alyssa, who simply sat calmly, her eyes following her mother with a faint, chilling smile. Even after Alyssa was sentenced to life in a psychiatric maximum security institution, the Harringtons never recovered. They moved away from Ohio, changed their names, and tried to disappear from the world. But the nightmares followed them. The whispers. The fear that Alyssa would find a way to reach them again. And every year, on the exact date of her arrest, they received an anonymous letter with no return address. Inside each envelope was a single sheet of paper. On that paper was a drawing. Michael, Laura, and Alyssa, standing behind them, smiling. The letters were always signed. Still studying you.